This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
It is time to move on and put the horrendous Penn State game behind us and move on. And let's talk about the Albany Great Danes. And we're going to do that in this live edition of Couz's Corner. And we're going to do it with special guest, Tommy Valentine. And in this very special episode, which is brought to you in part by BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino, Tommy's going to educate us a little bit about what the Great Danes bring to the table and what players for the Great Danes that West Virginia needs to look out for. And maybe we'll even talk about who's going to win the game, and can the Great Danes actually pull off the upset here? So without further ado, Mr. Tommy Valentine. Tommy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Couz. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show here, let everybody know exactly where they can find you at and what you do.
Yeah, you can catch us on News 10 ABC and Fox 23 Sports here in Albany, New York. I'm the weekend anchor, so that is usually one of my primary roles is covering UAlbany when we play on Saturdays. I'm kind of the guy always, with the availabilities. I like to have the lowdown on everything going on with that team. So we like to consider ourselves one of the leaders in the area on UAlbany football. So excited about this big game and a chance to head down to Morgantown. Big game for these guys.
Absolutely. And before we get any further, I want to give a shout out to one of my channel sponsors here. So folks, be with us. We'll be back in about 40 seconds. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians, because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. All right, Tommy. So I know Albany made it to the FCS semifinals a year ago. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Greatest year in program history.
Are they expecting this season are they expecting to return to that success? Are they expecting to take a slide back a little? Or I say they, obviously the fans, those in the area, are they expecting Albany to take a step back this year, or what are the expectations there around UAlbany?
Yeah, I think there's a hope and a genuine optimism that we can get back to the playoffs. I think the CAA conference this season is relatively open, where we were picked to be, I believe, in the top 3. Preseason rankings are usually, kind of meaningless, but there's definitely some firepower returning. It's going to be very tough to get back to the Final Four. Reese Poffenbarger, our quarterback, was kind of the guy, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through UAlbany. He transferred to Miami, Florida. We did a very good job picking up some pieces defensively in the transfer portal, but almost an entirely new starting defense, one that has some experience, because when you make a deep run like that, you're going to have guys that, are going to be injured, that, younger guys have to step up. So some of the guys we've plugged in on the defensive side of the ball have some experience, but I think it would be it's tough to expect this team to get back to where they were last year. There is a genuine optimism that they could make a run to the postseason, potentially compete for another CAA championship, but it's going to be an uphill battle with this squad that's really still kind of gelling right now.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Poffenbarger there, but they do have a quarterback coming in this year who does come from a P4 program in Wisconsin, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about Miles Burkett?
Yeah, he's got a good blend. It's tough to follow Reese. He was a gunslinger. He had an unbelievable football IQ. He just, the way he managed to find receivers and hit the big play was something really special. The good thing about Miles is, and we talked to him about this, he doesn't expect to, live up to Reese Poffenbarger. He's not trying to be the next Reese Poffenbarger. He's trying to be Miles Burkett. And what Miles Burkett brings to the table is a pretty solid dual threat quarterback. He's very mobile. That's one of the things. We had another really talented quarterback who was fighting for the job out of camp. Trey Lindsay, I believe was his name. And he was an Auburn transfer. So he had some experience as well in a power program. And but Miles beat him out because he had a little bit stronger of an arm. They liked his mobility. I think our offensive coordinator, Jared Ambrose, likes to have that ability to roll the quarterback out of the pocket and set up some option game and stuff like that. So just to have that extra element to the offense is huge. He's still getting gelled with the receivers, but you can see there's that arm strength there. He's a very composed guy. Again, you have to be legit to get discovered by a program like Wisconsin, and
Right.
He's got a lot of very good intangibles. Right now, it's really just gelling. He had a tough first game. I think he was like 11 for 24, something like that. He had the big play to Seven McGee, who I'm sure we'll talk about.
Right.
But he's got the makings of I believe a top tier FCS quarterback. It's just maybe kind of starting to get his feet under him, and because that was his first collegiate start on Saturday, and it was tough, poor conditions. It was raining pretty bad at the beginning of the game. But I do think he's the kind of guy who has the intangibles to lead us to another CAA championship for sure.
Awesome. And what year is he in?
This would be his redshirt sophomore year, I want to say. Yep.
Okay. So he'll still have a couple more seasons after this.
Ideally, yeah. Hopefully he'll stick around. There's so much turnover in the FCS game nowadays. But we had Reese for 2 years, which we were very fortunate about, and hopefully Miles will be willing to stick around as well. Yep, I'm looking at right now, redshirt sophomore.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Seven McGee, so let's go ahead and segue to that. I really am impressed. You talk about fast. That kid is fast, or young man, I should say. He is fast. He's got some wheels on him. So talk a little bit about what he brings to the table. And is this his first year in the program as well?
First year in the program. A very interesting story. A Rochester guy. So this is a little bit, Rochester probably 3-4 hours from here. So a little bit of a homecoming for him. So it was a big deal to be back in UAlbany. I know he had a lot of fans and family in attendance on Saturday. Recruited by Oregon, 4-star recruit by ESPN out of high school, and goes to Oregon. Wasn't maybe utilized the way he wanted to be. I think they kind of tried to transfer him to or kind of transition him more into a running back role, which was tough because Oregon has had a lot of talented running backs over the last few years. Then he goes to Jackson State, plays for Dion. Again, just wasn't happy with how he was fitting in. He talked about, and I was very impressed when we talked to him. He talked about a lack of maturity maybe that he had when he was at his first couple of stops. But he's really gotten it together. I mean, he carries himself so well. He's got a great presence about him, and he seems like he's really locked in on this season. But he is just, you want to talk about dynamic. Like, he's a guy who just the pass that was the one big touchdown that we had in the game offensively. Griffin Waddell and our running back had the other one, but that was kind of the big spark. It was right before halftime, and Miles hit him. I don't know. I didn't get a great look at it if it was like a little bit of a slant or like a little bit of kind of like a skinny post, but he caught it maybe like 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. And I mean, Couz, it was like he was shot out of a cannon. I mean, he just he just ran away from everybody. And that's the spark that he brings. He's a tough guy to bottle up in open space. He's a deep threat. I mean, he's a guy you just get the ball in his hands, get him a quick wide receiver screen, something like that, and just let him go crazy.
Yeah. He worries me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, because we've got some new faces back there in West Virginia secondary. Now, a couple of them do have Power 5 experience at Northwestern in the Big Ten.
Sure.
But nonetheless, they're new to the West Virginia program and to the scheme. And we do have a couple guys who are moving up from either the FCS or the Group of 5 level.
Okay.
So, he could be a potential matchup problem for our DB. So I'm concerned there. And you mentioned the running back, Waddell. Can you go ahead and – I'm pretty impressed with that young man as well. He ran for, I think, about 90 yards in the game against Long Island last week. So
yes, sir.
What's he bring?
Reigning conference rookie of the year offensively, one of our personal favorites to catch up with because he's a Glens Falls guy, which is about 50. So he's a Capital Region guy. He's one of our own, recruited as a freshman, worked his way up from a walk-on. Unbelievable story, unbelievable work ethic. He is huge because he is a dual threat guy. He is really strong running in between the tackles. He's constantly fighting for extra yardage. But he's got a little bit of speed on the outside. He can get you to the edge. But one of his best attributes is he's an unbelievable pass catcher. He had 4 touchdown catches last year. I believe he was third, maybe probably fourth in receiving yards on our team. And we had a quarterback that threw for 4,000 yards, so almost pretty significant. He's a very good dual threat guy, just a tough physical runner, just a great guy that if Miles is in trouble. Dink and dunk down to him, can make a couple of guys miss. Just like I said, a very physical, strong runner, top to bottle up. He's always going to battle for extra yards. And the tough thing about him is we managed to keep him fresh because we do have a pretty deep running back room. If we get through Griffin, You'll probably see Faisal Aiden coming behind him, a graduate guy, I believe, from Utah he was. So another guy with some power 5 or power 4 background. And we do a good job of cycling him in to keep Griff pretty fresh. But he's got a really good motor, and it's a lot of guys that if Miles is kind of like Dinkin and Duncan the 7 and Griffin, it's just a lot of guys to just to watch out for out of the backfield. And Jarrett and Coach Ambrose with the offensive scheme is very good. He's one of the better offensive coordinators in the FCS, I think. So he's very creative, and he comes up with good ways to find ways to get him the ball.
Yep. Well said. And I appreciate you bringing that. Obviously, I don't know if you are paying attention to the chat at all, but man, West Virginia fans, we're down bad right now. I mean, we're this past Saturday really, really hurt our pride, man. We had really high expectations for this Mountaineer team coming into the year. And to be honest, the coaching staff kind of pumped it up a little bit. They served us the Kool-Aid and we drank it. And we didn't necessarily expect to go out and beat. Some of us did. I mean, some people thought we'd beat Penn State. I didn't necessarily think we'd win the game, but I thought it'd at least be competitive.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it wasn't. And West Virginia did not look good in the game. And so we're down bad. So our fans really need – what we really need is for West Virginia to come out and do, on paper, what a Power 4 team should do to an FCS team.
Sure.
And that is win handily. But I tell you, man, I'm a little bit nervous about it because – of the guys you're talking about.
Yeah.
But after when I watched some of the highlights from the LIU game, and LIU did, statistically speaking, defeat. I mean, they beat Albany in most categories. I mean, they had more passing yards, more rushing yards.
Yep.
Albany forced that turnover, had the scoop and score, and really that was the difference in the ball game right there.
Absolutely.
Can you speak a little bit about where Albany may fall short, as far as facing a Power 4 competitor like West Virginia, and where you think their weaknesses are?
Yeah, it's still the big thing is just that I don't know that maybe like chemistry or that connection, that groove. They had that last year's team was so experienced, so tight knit. A lot of them had come back from the 2022 squad. This is such a new team, so they're still really meshing. When Miles manages to get the ball in somebody like a 7 McGee's hands or a Jakari Carter, they can make plays, but it's finding ways for them to get, for him to get the ball in their hands. So, and the defense concerns me a little bit as well, that we don't know who kind of like the dude is on that side. We've got a very good safety, a graduate student, Deshaun Winston. He's probably our best guy right now. But he's coming off a season-ending injury last year. So so there's just a lot of question marks defensively. And one of the big strengths of this team last year was our run defense. Our front 4 was spectacular. You just plugged up a lot of holes. We were right near the top of the FCS in sacks, in rushing yards allowed. There's just not quite that same presence up front. And I know West Virginia is I know Neil Brown loves to really ground and pound. I think that's where I have some personal concerns. Is how our front 4 will hold up against West Virginia's big dudes, and just the offense will be able to make some plays, but it's just how comfortable will Miles be in just his second career start in a place like Morgantown that is so difficult to play at. So I think that's the biggest concern is how do our front guys, our offensive line, and let me say that this is spectacular. I think we could have some success running the football because our best attribute is our offensive line. 2 preseason all conference selections up there in Ozzie Hutchinson, our left tackle, one of the better offensive linemen in the country for FCS, and Will Murata. We should be able to battle offensively up front, but defensively, I'm worried, what the run defense is going to kind of look like. LIU had some success moving the ball. We gave up a couple big plays on the ground that I felt like they shouldn't have. So that's going to be where I know you guys have Donaldson and White, power runners, and in Green with his ability to move, out of the pocket. The fact that you guys kind of have a 3-headed running attack it's a little bit concerning.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do you think one of my audience members here asked, do you expect Albany to load the box and try to force West Virginia to beat them in the air?
It's a good question. I do. Because I think there is that concern. Again, we haven't been to practice yet this week, so that's probably something we'll talk about with Greg on probably tomorrow, honestly. I think they'll probably, because they're so cognizant of the running game, and I think they do have that faith in the secondary, especially with Deshaun back there. Teams don't test him a whole lot.
Right.
I think there's going to be that confidence that, like, hey, if we're going to make the West Virginia offense beat us, let's try to do. Let's have Garrett Green try to do it through the air. And again, this is just I'm this is not coming from a place of hearing from Greg or anything. This is coming from a college football viewer, essentially.
Right.
I think probably their best bet would to try to stack the box, to limit the run game as best they can. They've got some good big physical linebackers. Try to get them up there and stack the box. And if you get beat by Garrett Green deep, so be it. But I think Greg Couz, our head coach, as a former defensive lineman, he takes a lot of pride in stopping the run and being one of those teams that can keep that at bay. When we struggled a lot in 2022, we were getting gashed on the ground, and that really frustrated him. So I think that's kind of one of the areas he takes pride in is having that size and that, physicality to match up front and try to stop the run game as best we can.
Right. Yep. That's what I would expect him to do as well. Probably just like you, as a fan who watches, and what little bit I do know about football from the years of watching it, I mean, that's kind of what Penn State did. They said, man, we're putting man coverage on you. We're gonna make you throw it. And unfortunately, West Virginia. Now, Penn State is one of the elite defenses in all of college football.
Exactly.
But we're looking for Garrett to bounce back this week and have a great week. Hopefully, he needs it to build his confidence back up, and try to get past this sour taste that's in everyone's mouth after this past game.
Yeah, but you guys I'll tell you this: they'll come ready to play. UAlbany will come ready to play. There's something about this team. They rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. They went and they battled Marshall last year right down to the wire. Easily could have won that game. These guys will be ready to go. They love the challenge. They're used to this. They went down, they've been down to Pittsburgh 2 years ago. They went down, or 3 years ago, maybe they went down to North Dakota State, Baylor 2 years ago to open up their season. And they got beat around, by Baylor, but they like taking on that challenge. Greg talked about it. They enjoy having that opportunity and that experience, to prove themselves against the best of the best. And I think guys like Sevin McGee and Miles Burkett, who come from former Power 5 programs, current Power 4 programs, they want to prove like, hey, we can still, maybe an FCS program right now, but we can still hack it with, the best of the best. So I think this is a team that, when they get a challenge like this, they rise to it. So they will not lay down. I'll tell you guys that much.
Right. Real quick, I got to give a shout out to a sponsor here real quick, Tommy. Folks, I want to remind you, if you want to place a bet this week, unfortunately, there's no odds listed for this game because it's an FCS versus FBS game over at BetUS. But right here, as you can see, any other Big 12 game or any game around the country you want to place a bet on, you can do that. Go to the link in my description box to the BetUS site. Check them out. Take advantage of their offer. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Make sure you play responsibly, though. And if you can't afford it, guys, do not bet, please. Thank you. And then also, right here, the first game listed is BYU versus SMU. BYU, an 11-point underdog in this game. Man, I'm not sure. I think I will take BYU in this one myself, but I'm kind of biased. I'm a Big 12 guy. So, with that being said, if anybody who wants to place a bet on this game, go to BetUS and do it using the link in my description box. Shout out to them for helping keep the lights on here on the show. So, Tommy, you mentioned that Albany's going to come ready to play. What is the mood around the program? I'm assuming they're excited anytime they get a chance to come play a P4 program. Is that true? Are they excited about this opportunity?
Absolutely. And we would talk about it last year going to, when they went to South Dakota State for the Final Four. They like I said, they love to get the opportunity to prove themselves on the big stage. They don't want to be looked at as like, this, woeful FCS program. They love these opportunities to prove themselves against the best of the best. And you got, like I mentioned, a bunch of former Power 4 guys, that want a chance to prove that maybe came here to get a little bit more playing time and potentially want to prove that, they can still hang with the big dogs in the country. And, a lot of the younger guys, this will be opportunities for them to prove themselves and maybe get a little bit more playing time. This is I know Miles is going to be excited for this. I'm sure Seven will be, and I'm looking forward to talking with them tomorrow about the game. But all these, this is not something they ever shy away from. They're not like, we'll try to go down there and we'll do what we can. This is always like, hey, we're gonna come, we're gonna play our tails off, and we, it may not come out on their end, but they're gonna go down there with the expectation that they can win the game.
Yeah. And I'm concerned. Someone who's a West Virginia fan, I'm concerned. We had Penn State. The hype around that game was unbelievable. Some of the most hype I've seen around the game in 20, 30 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's a long time. A season opener, anyway. Well, then week after on the 14th, next weekend, there's the Pitt game, the biggest rival of West Virginia, the backyard brawl in Pittsburgh. So I'm concerned that this could be a perfect moment for a letdown game. These are young men. These are 18 to 22, 23-year-olds. Where are they going to be at mentally? They're probably still a little disappointed from the game this past week where they didn't play up to their expectations. But, they see the chatter on social media. The fans are not happy. People are wanting Neil Brown fired. I mean, it's, typical fan stuff, right?
Sure.
Players see that stuff, and it's hard to forget about it, right? When it's right there in your face all the time. So I'm worried, a little bit that they could let their guard down. And I think Albany's good enough. Yes, they didn't have the greatest week against Long Island, but they did pull out a win.
Yeah.
And it was game one. Game one is, who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a reflection of what the team's going to look like the rest of the season. And the same could be said for West Virginia too, right?
Absolutely.
So, I'm concerned that it's a perfect letdown moment. Is that something that,
again, as a guy who will obviously be pulling for Albany, I
right.
think there's that opportunity. It's gonna. I think this is a great, even though it's maybe looked at as a tune-up. When the schedule comes out, it's maybe looked at as a tune-up game. But I think this is a great, maybe like character moment for your guys, because are they going to come out, angry? Are they going to come out, fiery that they maybe had that letdown against Penn State? It's like, okay, let's prove ourselves again against a team that we technically on paper should beat. Or are they going to be looking ahead to Pittsburgh? And when you've got a team like UAlbany coming in with essentially, nothing to lose, this is just, a great opportunity for them to get some experience against one of the better teams in the country. So, I know they'll be fired up. There's going to be, no lack of focus and intensity and drive out of our team. It's, and again, not like I'm challenging West Virginia or anything like that, but how are they going to respond? That is a very good question. Are they going to be already looking to Pitt, or are they going to be coming out and saying, okay, this is time to show our fans what we're made of again against a team again, like I said, that we should beat on paper. So I think it's a very good kind of test to see how your group responds, and I'm looking forward to to how we maybe regroup UAlbany coming off a weekend. I know they didn't have their best stuff and want to still prove that maybe there's a couple doubters out there. We squeaked by LIU.
Mm-hmm.
I know they'll be coming out hungry and wanting to prove something as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm talking with Tommy Valentine here. You can catch him on X at Tommy Valentine 116. Is that right, Tommy?
You got it.
And just one more time, what station can they find you on?
News 10 ABC and Fox 23 in Albany, New York.
Awesome. Tommy, is there anything you want to say out there to Mountaineer Nation or any of the fans who might be watching this show about the UAlbany Great Danes that you haven't already said?
Yeah, I would just say, expect a fun battle. I think you're going to see some guys out there on the field on our side that are going to really impress you. Maybe give you a few headaches. Know the name Griffin Waddell, know the name Seven McGee. Those guys are going to be relentless, and hopefully this may be a bit of a coming out party for Miles Burkett. We're really looking forward to seeing how he stacks up on a big stage like this. But I know you and I, before I came on here, talked about how I'm a Texas Tech fan at heart, and so I have a lot of respect for the West Virginia program, and I know those guys always bring it on Saturdays, and it's always a spectacular environment. So I'm looking forward to seeing how our guys handle themselves in one of the tougher venues in the country, and I think it's going to be a great test for both sides to see how you guys respond, and to see how we stack up against a really, really talented team.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And, Joey Foster said it great there in the chat. He says, good stuff, Tommy, and good luck this year, but not this weekend. Yeah, we're going to be – I'd say West Virginia fans will be pulling for UAlbany to make some noise this year in the CAA. And
we appreciate it.
And do something, hopefully get back to those FCS playoffs and get back to that semifinals. And because I'm sure that, they want to end the year differently than they did a year ago,
Absolutely.
and get a win in the semifinals this time. But just real quick, Tommy, if you have time, tell UAlbany has had one of the better comeback stories, so to speak, as far as programs in the FCS. Can you talk a little bit about where they've come from and where they are now?
Oh, it was incredible. 3-9, I believe, in 2022 to 11-4, I want to say last year. It was one of the better, based on win total alone. It was one of the better turnarounds in the country. It was incredible to watch because, again, they had a relatively similar 2022 team and 2023 team, but it just like the switch just flipped for that group, and they got a couple more pieces around them offensively and defensively that really added to that squad, and it was unbelievable the turnaround that they had. And Albany's not a huge football market, but boy, they rallied around the team last year, and there was just a buzz in the capital region that we hadn't had with college football in quite some time, and there was a great following, and like I said, the FCS, the run of the playoffs was spectacular. That team was special, and they're just looking back on their run, and the win against Idaho in I believe the quarterfinals was spectacular, and I mean, but Reese Poffenbarger was kind of the driving force behind all that. He was spectacular, and it hurt losing him. And we wish him well down in Miami. But it was an unbelievable. It just, like I said, it was a complete 180. I mean, 2022, it was after almost every game we were asking Greg, how can you guys turn this around? And it was tough to answer the questions. And then all of a sudden, 2023, they're one of the better teams in the FCS. And we would ask him almost every week, like, is it almost like you have to pinch yourself to realize, like, holy crap, like how far this team has come in such a short period of time. And it was amazing to watch. And I hope that kind of that helped them a lot in recruiting and, getting guys like Miles Burkett and Seven McGee attracted to a program like this. And, and I hope they can continue to maintain this. I do think they have the team set up to have a really solid season. But that was a spectacular 2023 year.
Yeah. Yeah. And Coach Brown's actually been using that game against Idaho as motivation for his guys, because he said, look, Idaho almost beat Oregon last week, and this team went to Idaho and won. So you cannot underestimate this football team. Hopefully they listen to him. Hopefully they don't overlook Albany, because I do think Albany has the capability of winning the game. Hopefully West Virginia will come out and do what they should do and win. Are you allowed to give score predictions since you cover the team? I don't know how that works.
We usually don't. No.
Okay,
but,
I didn't think so.
No, that's okay. I'm just expecting. I think it's going to be a pretty close first half. I think. I think the coaches, I think Greg and Jared will cook up a good game plan, and as long as they control the clock and get Miles some early confidence, I think it's going to be the second half concerns me maybe a little bit. When the Power 4 legs start to settle in for West Virginia and maybe UAlbany's getting a little fatigued, but I think in the first half it could be a pretty close battle. I mean, if we keep it within 10 points, I think that'd be a pretty solid first half. I think
if it's a 10-point game at halftime, our fan base is going to blow their lid. I can tell you that right now.
That would be great for us. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, it would be. It would be great for Albany. No doubt about it. The Air fan, there's so much tension right now. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I was listening to another podcast earlier, and I heard him say, West Virginia could win this game 70-0, and I still don't think the fan base is going to be comfortable.
Sure,
because it's an FCS game. They want to see us beat another. Now, I think I'd be okay with that, because I think if you go out and beat a team like Albany that bad, I think how good this team is. That's how I feel.
No, I agree with that,
because Albany's going to put up a fight.
Yep. Yeah, I would. If you guys win by I'm just throwing out a number. I mean, if you guys, if it's something like I don't know, 42-14, somewhere in that ballpark, I would consider that a very impressive game, because this is not a team in Albany that I expect to go in there and get blown out. Like I've said all this whole time, I think they'll put up a really good fight. So I think there is a score out there where I think West Virginia fans should be very pleased, depending on how if they do beat UAlbany, how they do it. I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Browns and Beers, one of my channel members, says Albany is at least used to winning at one of the country's most iconic venues, the Kibbe Dome.
Yeah, the Kibbe. That was a cool trip.
I bet it was. And then Joey Foster says, he said, I'm being told by a friend in Albany that this is what they are calling their biggest game in history. and the team is fired up and ready to go. I'm not sure about history, but I'm sure it's a big
Yeah. I would say probably the South Dakota State game would be up there for one of the bigger ones in history, just because of what was on the line.
Right.
But this is definitely this is a great chance for them to prove themselves, especially coming off a year. This is not like some team that went 3-9 and then they're walking into West Virginia, maybe not with the highest of hopes. This is a team that had a great season. They have high hopes for this year. And they're expecting to really put up a fight. So I think this is a big, like, okay, let's show what we're made of type game for them.
Right. Well, Tommy, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Glad we were able to work this out, and it's been fun, man. And I really appreciate you educating us about Albany football. And I'll respect your time and let you go. Everybody, I'll stick around a few more minutes and answer some of your questions. But Tommy, thanks again, man, and good luck the rest of the season for the Great Danes.
Likewise, Couz. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Take care.
All right, that was awesome. I really appreciate Tommy for coming on, man. He knows that Great Dane team, man. Does he not? How impressive was that? Let me get over here to some of your all's comments. See what I can pull up here. Answer as many as I can. I'm not going to stand here too long, guys, because I do have another show to record later. I'm going to be recording the next episode of the Golden Blue Breakdown with Jonathan Martin. Daniel Gigax, who's a VIP member, says, WV Fan 13, it's still early in the season. Let's see how things are going after the KU game. Daniel, I can go along with that. I'm going to say after the Pitt game. I'm not sure the fans can wait till after the KU game. Already read that one. Excuse me. I had another one up here by a VIP member. I wanted to Jonathan Lewis is in the house. For those of you who are watching on X, by the way, if you want to jump over to YouTube, check out my channel there. You can find, pre-recorded stuff, past live streams, stuff that you may not see on X. So please go check that out. Daniel Gigax says hype for the 22 backyard brawl might have been higher. Yeah, that hype was pretty big. I ain't gonna lie to you, just because it was a return of that series. But man, the hype of this game, as far as home openers, I can't remember a game being hyped up that much. It was big. And I think a lot of it was just because of the stuff around it, with Pat McAfee show coming to town. And a lot of it, the coaching staff had told us how good this team was, and we believed them. And, man, I really hope they weren't mistaken. And I hope they weren't just what's the word I'm looking for? I hope they didn't overplay how good the team was, or just, analyze. Maybe the analysis of the team is not what they thought it was. You know what I mean? Because, they've been playing against each other at practice. So is it possible that, if the offense is looking good, maybe it's because the defense just isn't very good? That's something you got to be concerned about. I would love for them to bring in a preseason for college football. Let West Virginia Marshall play a preseason game. If they don't want to play in the regular season, let them play a preseason game against each other. Something, it doesn't have to count, but the coaches will get an idea of what the team has before they get into the season. I think they should do that. Count that as one of your scrimmages. Oversold the team and underdelivered. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say before I got tongue-tied, Appalachia Africa Twin. But Browns and Beer says go Cincy, BYU, and Marshall. Yeah, Marshall plays VT this week. I'm excited about that one. I'm hoping the Herd can pull it off. That would be awesome. JDK says if we don't win by at least 3 touchdowns, Brown should have his keys taken away and banned from campus. LOL. Yeah, they definitely should win big. I mean, what little bit I saw, I wasn't super impressed with. I am impressed with their skill position guys, but like Tommy was talking about earlier, they struggled on the defensive side last week against Long Island. They gave up a lot of yards on the ground, and they gave up 3 touchdowns through the air. And they did run the ball fairly well, but I don't think they ran the ball as good as they probably would have liked to. So I don't expect them. If they're able to come out this week and run the ball on West Virginia, I'll be extremely, extremely disappointed. I do think Seven McGee's going to have some catches. I think he's that good. He's a Power 4 level player at the receiver's position. But West Virginia should win the game handling. He wasn't allowed to give a score prediction, but and I don't want to give it away because I'm going to be giving one on the Gold Blue Breakdown. I do think West Virginia wins the game, obviously, I'm not going to give my prediction just yet. I want you guys to tune into the Golden Blue Breakdown Show to get it, but I expect West Virginia to win the game for sure. I do think that Albany may keep the game close at least for a quarter, if not two, and then West Virginia will pull away eventually. But well, listen, I'm going to. That's all I've got for tonight. I wanted to let you guys hear what Tommy had to say, and I will be posting this in a few minutes. I'll be downloading this and re-uploading it as a on-demand video. I have to make a couple of edits to it first, so bear with me. But for those of you who didn't, for the people, obviously, if you're on here, you're seeing it live. But if you came in late and didn't catch the beginning of it, it will be posted in a few minutes. So keep your eyes open, and you'll be able to go back and watch it here in a few minutes. So with that being said, thanks again to my sponsors, BetUS, Sportsbook and Casino. Check out the link in my description box and in the pinned comment below. And also to Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, your personal injury and medical malpractice attorneys in West Virginia and Virginia. Check them out at yourlawyeryourvoice.com and 304-999-HURT. Check them out today if you're in need. Appreciate everybody tuning into the show. Have a top shelf rest of your day, and cue Country Roads.